Hello, I'm Dr. Sam and this is Dr. Sam's Health, and today we're having another installment of my Inspirational Q&A series. We've got an amazing question from Dr. Fox, aka the Lifting Dermatologist. He always asks very interesting questions and I will let him speak on his own behalf.
So, Dr. Sam, why do people get so emotional when one comments the diet they are following?
That is one great question, and to be honest, I asked myself this question many times. I don't have a straightforward answer because there are so many different people in the world with their different world outlooks, mindsets, situations, diets. But I must say that in my lifetime, I've seen quite a few very typical responses when you start talking about someone's diet, their approach, and they lash out at you, they become really emotional. I've been thinking a lot about that, and there might be millions of different explanations, but today I would like to take a psychodynamic approach and to reflect on this typical response from the psychodynamic standpoint. I think at this point everyone had heard about Sigmund Freud, who is a grandfather of psychoanalytic and psychodynamic psychotherapy. The core of this therapies is the structural and topographical models of human psyche. The structural model posits that there are three main structures in our psyche that determine our behavior and our emotions in many situations, if not all of them. These three structures are id, ego, and superego, and I will go over them and I will try to illustrate them in the context of the question about diet and people's responses to comments about their diets. I will start with id as it's the most primitive, the most deeply rooted part of our psyche that is located deep in our subconsciousness or unconsciousness, and it is responsible for drives. Freud obviously was known for talking about sexual drives, but there are other drives, like self-preservation, drive to have certain things, drives to have food, to search and locate nutrient sources. And in our situation, it would be something that determines our desire to have food, to devour as much food as possible, and the quality of this food obviously would be important too. So we want to have the most delicious, the most nutritious, the most unique gustatory experiences. We want to devour everything and anything at the same time, and we want to have it as much as possible. That would be the drive generated by id. On the other part of our psyche, there is superego, which is pretty much our moral compass, our set of rules and wisdoms that we should follow. So that is the part of our psyche that would tell us that, there are good foods and bad foods. There are things we should do, like working out regularly, we should be fit, we should not eat past certain time of the day, we should not consume too much food, we shouldn't go to McDonald's or whatever. It is unique and unique for everyone. Everyone has their own specific set of rules, obviously. This system is usually created by societal inputs, throughout our life. We grow up, we learn different things, and this system is being created there. Most likely you have noticed that I used a lot of should statements, and that pretty much describes the gist of superego. So id is the primitive drives, I want to. Superego is should not statements. That's our moral compass, our wisdom. And ego is the area where these two parts are clashing. There is always some sort of an ongoing conflict between our drives and the things we shouldn't do or should do. This conflict is obviously a very taxing thing, and no one can survive with this ongoing conflict being unaddressed. So what our ego does to spare itself and our psyche, according to Freud and his followers, it employs certain defense mechanisms. There are quite a few of them, but I'll give you a couple of examples. The very simple one is denial. So pretty much, I'm eating a lot, I'm not following my own routines, my own internalized guidelines in terms of nutrition and working out, and I'm gaining weight, but I'm saying, I'm healthy. I deny the fact that there is something wrong happening and that my drives are out of control. Importantly, this is happening on subconscious level, so I don't have awareness of this happening. I just don't register the fact that there is some sort of unhealthy situation happening, and that is something that's called denial. I don't want to give particular examples of people in denial, but there are quite a few of them, and you can look around yourself or sometimes in the mirror and see some denial there. Another defense mechanism is something that's called projection. When instead of registering there is a problem with you, you are registering the same problem, you're projecting it on someone else. Like, for example, you, Dr. Fox, when you go to a conference, you are obviously a very fit gentleman, and some people who meet you, they might be healthy or unhealthy, they might be overweight, they look at you and they, at the same time, deny the fact that they have a problem, but they are telling you that you look very vascular, are you okay? That would be an excellent example of projection. So people are not seeing that there is a problem with them, but they are registering some sort of a problem with you, and they are talking about that. Another defense mechanism I would like to mention is something that's called displacement. So when the person is effectively very unhappy with themselves, so for example, I'm this person, I have gained some weight, I'm not being able to follow certain nutritional guidelines, I'm not working out, I'm unhappy with myself, but I'm not registering it. And instead of taking steps in order to change my lifestyle, change my situation, I'm actually becoming angry and angrier and angrier, and I'm displacing this anger, I'm channeling it at someone else. So I'm yelling at people, like someone who comes to me and makes comments about my diet. You see where I'm going with that, right? In general, there are quite a few defense mechanisms, and I'm not planning to talk about all of them, but my main point of this part of my discourse is that we do not really live in objective reality. We live in some sort of a bubble, our own worlds that are created as a compromise between objective reality, something that we can sense, that we can smell, see, read about, and so on, our superego, this idealistic model of should and should not behaviors, our primitive drives, and our ego. And all these things, they consolidate in our ego on partially conscious, partially subconscious level. And this bubble is effectively, it's us. And these bubbles, our worlds, are very fragile. And here comes my second point. Since this bubble is so fragile, it's very easy to damage it. And effectively, when you are making comments about people's diet, you are shattering their world, their bubble. You are damaging the fabric of their existence. I know that it sounds very, very dramatic, but in reality, or perceived reality, that is exactly what is happening. And that's why people are reacting so emotional. Effectively what is happening is you are damaging their reality, and they react to it as to a loss. And they actually go through the classical Kübler-Ross stages of grief. There are 5 of them, and let me go over them so you could see what exactly is happening. So first of all, you're making a comment about someone's diet. And say this person is overweight, they have certain beliefs that their diet is actually really working or should be working. But at the same time, deeply in their unconscious mind, there is some sort of understanding that something is not going the way it should. And here you come, a doctor who is supposed to know what he's talking about, someone who is successful, smart, obviously very fit, and you're making a comment about their diet. They perceive it as a threat, and you are effectively taking away something from their world outlook. So the first stage of grief, or reaction to the loss, is denial. They're effectively telling you, no, you're wrong, or essentially, if you're wrong, they are right. They cannot register, they cannot accept the fact that something is wrong about their diet. But At the same time, deep inside, there are some ideas or facts or constellation of facts that are showing that their diet is not really working, but it's very difficult to accept it. And after denial, there is some brewing happening inside of person's mind. They understand that, you know, this diet might not be, that they are following, it might not be like that perfect, but in order to transition further, they have to react somehow. And this reaction is usually anger, the second stage. It's actually very difficult to rationalize this response, and that is why people are becoming very emotional. So usually things I hear is like, well, you are a doctor, you are supposed to know what it means to be on a diet, to be overweight. You should not judge me, you should not fat shame me. It's because of you, doctors, all of the people in the world are suffering from so many diseases that you cannot treat and you do not want to treat. There is a doctor mafia, that doctors with pharma companies are affecting the population in a negative way, and so on and so on and so on. Most likely I've heard some of that. I definitely see it all over YouTube. But as your comment gets through and it is being effectively processed, the person enters the next stage, which is bargaining. The person starts to argue with you. Usually it is quite emotional too, but it doesn't have to be. The idea is that, you know, the person gradually discards certain parts of their approach while gradually accepting certain parts of your approach. And they're trying to find a compromise. And unfortunately, in many cases, this compromise cannot be found, just because their diet doesn't work and apparently what you are representing in your approach is working. So they have to completely discard their idea. And at this point, they enter the next stage, which is called depression. The person again becomes very emotional, but it's like kind of sad, melancholic tone. The person is upset because they are literally grieving the loss of not just the concept, but the part of their psyche, the part of their world outlook. This stage might last for a while, but in the end of the day, it's been replaced by the last stage, something that we call acceptance. When the person accepts, both on emotional and cognitive level, that their approach is not particularly good, and that is the perfect time for them to change or for us to act. Unfortunately, when you are making these comments, likely these people are not at this level, and realistically we're pretty much doomed to have this kind of emotional reactions. So this is my take on this situation, my educated guess, and I would like to say right away there might be multiple other explanations, and definitely this approach cannot be applied to every single person. There might be different variations of the situation, but I think that the gist of it is like that. And the next question that I would ask myself is, what do we do about it? So I think that the most important thing is to realize that a lot of people will have this kind of emotional reactions. And they are going to have them not because they are bad or we are bad. It's just the nature of the things. It's natural course of events. So what I would recommend is, to be honest, minding our own business, leading by example, and I can definitely say that you, my friend, are doing this already, and offering advice and making comments only when people are asking for them, and you can tell that they are ready to receive this new information, when they went through all the stages of grief on their own. In case they are not ready, they don't have this awareness of their approach is not working, but in your opinion it clearly doesn't work, and for some reason you kind of have to make a comment. For example, you've got a patient who is overweight and he or she is sticking to some sort of a YOLO diet, and you do not expect them to get better, or they do not understand that they are overweight and that is affecting their health. I would use something that we call motivational interviewing, which is a good set of techniques. I won't go into details here, but that is something for all of us to consider. It's a very nice way of helping the person to progress in different stages of understanding their situation and building motivation to change. ultimately there might be another scenario when the person doesn't have an understanding that their diet is bad, for a simple reason that their diet might be bad in the principle, but it's working for them. In this case, I would not make any comments other than positive, just saying that, you look great. I don't know what you're doing and how it works, but it is amazing. Maybe there is something we can learn from you. That was my answer to your question, Dr. Fox, and I'm looking forward for other questions from you and from everyone else. Ladies and gentlemen, if you like my channel, hit the like button, hit subscribe button, in order not to miss anything. Check out my website, drsamshealth.com. We've got my blogs there, a number of tools that you can use, and I will see you in my next video. All the best.